What's up, everyone? We are live. Welcome to Bleav NFL Live, Week 11 reaction show right here on the Bleav YouTube channel. We are here every single Sunday at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to react to all the wild Week 11. Was it wild? I don't know. What is football? We're about to find out. And this is the show where the Bleav Sports Network, we have 32 NFL podcasts. We are paired with 32 former NFL players for every single team, paired with also our wildly talented roster that we feature here every single week on the show. Stick it around in about 10 minutes. Super excited to have our guest on today. He's LA Football Network's LAFB's very own Ryan Dyrud's coming on to talk Week 11 action. So excited. So jump in the chat. Hang out with us for the next 30 minutes or so. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy or follow our main page at Bleav Sports. Let's bring in my co-host for today. He was here Week 1. He only does the weeks with ones in them. He's back for Week 11 right now. He is Rotoballer NFL's my Tuddy guy, Cinemark's very finest, Dave Rispoli.
What an intro. And you only have me on when it's extremely low scoring weeks. I remember we had a really weird Week 1. Why not have a really weird Week 11, Joe? Some odd scores, low scoring games, a lot of slop ball being played today, you know?
We bring you back for the finest. 10-3. Patriots,
I wish
Jets.
you wouldn't, you know?
But we're recording this live right now. We've got two really good games going on right now. Broncos, Raiders, 16-13 Broncos, 2 minutes to go. You know, that's kind of a bit of a who cares, but there is a good one right now with the Bengals and Steelers. You know, perhaps the game of the day, 27-23 right now, the Bengals with tons of time left to go in the fourth quarter. So, Dave, I want to throw it to you first. We'll get to the morning games in a second. Let's talk about the games that are going on right now. Bigger surprise, more interesting. What's piqued your interest more? Dallas up 37-3 or this Bengals Steelers game?
Yeah, I think 1 week ago we would have told you that the Vikings are for real, that the Vikings are contenders, that the Vikings could be the dark horse team. Nope. Welcome the Cowboys. They're for real. This is a huge statement game for the Cowboys, Joey. We were talking off air before this that the Cowboys are the #1 contenders to land Odell Beckham Jr. If that happens, watch out. I'd love to know what the Vegas odds right now, Super Bowl, are if you got in a couple weeks ago on the Dallas Cowboys, because my guess is after this week, they're going to be in at least the top 3 favorites, right?
Yeah, well, typically when you go up 37-3 against a team, whether the team is 8-1 or not, you're definitely going to say this is the blueprint to win, correct? But if you look at it, you know, Tony Pollard right now has over, I think, 170 all-purpose yards. He's got 2 touchdowns today. He's looked fantastic. In those short yardage situations, Zeke is punching in touchdowns. And then, Dave, let's just stick with it a second here. You brought this up before we hopped on, and I'm kind of curious. We're getting to that point right now where Odell Beckham is going to have to choose his team. You think it's the Cowboys. You're hearing it's the Cowboys right now. Talk about that for a second, because could possibly on Thanksgiving morning we find out that Odell Beckham signs with the Dallas Cowboys. Wouldn't that be a headline?
I mean, it just makes sense, Joey. That seems like a Jerry Jones move to make. Odell Beckham, big flashy names. Oh, we're seeing a huge
Derek Carr's
here.
flashy name. Speaking of that, Derek Carr,
Josh
they are
Jacobs
in the red zone with 46 and ticking right now with the Raiders. Go confidence pool for me. But yeah, Dave, you know, all of a sudden Odell Beckham, if he ends up on the Dallas Cowboys, let's fantasize for a second. You know, we've been here on Bleav NFL Live. Past guests like Nick Kreider thinks they're going to go to the Super Bowl. In this NFC right now, and we'll get to the Eagles in a second, Dallas is definitely for real and a legit contender to possibly go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and what they've been struggling with all this year is really that third receiver position. It's been Noah Brown. They drafted Jalen Tolbert, hoping he was going to be the guy. He was not. Noah Brown isn't the guy. Michael Gallup seems like he still hasn't gone back to pre-injury form yet. You throw Odell Beckham in the mix, where Michael Gallup is now your true number 3, where he's probably going to thrive more. CeeDee Lamb, Odell Beckham, Michael Gallup, Tony Pollard in the backfield with Zeke. I mean, offensively, this team just all of a sudden jumps off the page, where defensively they had already been dominating all season long. So already a very scary team.
Cherry on top of the Sunday, Dak Prescott's starting to look like the Dak Prescott of a couple years ago when he's posting 4,500-yard seasons. Everyone's drafting him in fantasy football, and now he's starting to put up some huge numbers over the last couple of weeks. Derek Carr with the snap, looking in the end zone, throws it out of bounds. It's going to be an incomplete. Typical.
Mrs. Foster Moreau, who could have used that one in fantasy, Joe.
Dave, you know, we're going to get to the rest of the games in a second, especially with Ryan Dyrud when he comes on. Let's do some Bears. Let's do some Bears right now. You know, when we talk about what the game of the day was, I think the Bears-Falcons was the one that went back and forth. Obviously came down to a final kick by Koo to win the game 27-24. I can't call it the game of the day, though, right? Because those two teams, Falcons are staying alive. Bears are going nowhere. But just real quick, what'd you think of Justin Fields' performance today? He's been so hot recently. Everyone's talking about him now. They come up short again in this game.
But Justin Fields, once again, had 4 or 5 plays that had you just going, he's out of it. I mean, talk about extending plays. It's like this guy's the poster child right now. He's exciting to watch. Even in losses, Joey, it feels like a win as a Bears fan because we come away going, okay, it's kind of like a win-win for Bears fans right now. We lose, so we're better in the standings for the draft, but we continuously are seeing signs that we may have a franchise quarterback and an absolute playmaker under center.
Yeah, franchise quarterback who also ended up being taken to the locker room in a cart by the end of the game with a left shoulder injury. He said in the post game that definitely he was experiencing some pain. They're going to undergo some tests. I'll be honest with you, Dave, right now, as it stands, I probably will not play Justin Fields next week against the Jets. The Bears are 3-8 right now. You can't risk the future. What are we playing for? We're playing for progress, but it's not going to happen if the guy is hurt out there, right? I mean, would you, even if he comes back and the MRI is clean, but he's in a lot of pain, wouldn't you just sit him against the Jets next week?
If I'm Justin Fields, I'm sitting on the hospital bed and I'm going, is our O-line still the same? And then they go, yeah. And I would go, I don't feel well. I need a week.
Or does one of those things in the hospital where they're like, Justin, the offensive line is here to see you. And he just turns over and just throws the bedpan at the door.
Well, I don't want to see guests.
Yeah, really rough day against the Falcons defense that, look, is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And if you check me out on Bleav in Bears, and Dave, we talk about it too as well. This was a great matchup for the Chicago Bears to get it done via the air this week. And he only passed for 154 yards. Things got really tough in the second half. And again, Chase Claypool not really showing up in this game. Maybe my final thought on it, though, is, Dave, health provided when Justin Fields gets back out there. I'm right there with you. I'm rooting for a high draft pick. I want a top 5 pick. But you want to see him win one of these games, right? At one of these close games, have a fourth quarter comeback, him put it in the end zone. Is that another thing in the progression that you would like to check off the list?
Yeah, definitely. I think I come from behind win, but it's not all on Justin Fields. Our defense looks atrocious. There's no reason that Marcus Mariota should be able to have his way in the passing game, Joe. So that's not on Fields, okay? We're losing a lot of we're blowing a lot of leads. Justin Fields is getting up. I think it said at the end of our game, they said that we've lost we've blown our last 4 or 5 leads. So that's not always on Justin Fields. He didn't make too many mistakes and turn over the ball this time around. But yeah, of course, I want to see our possible future franchise quarterback lead a game-winning drive. But he's definitely showing signs to make me go, okay, yeah. I like him.
Yeah. I like him a lot. Please keep him upright. And again, you mentioned it. He broke another NFL record today. 5 straight games of, wait, what is it? 5 straight games
of a passing and rushing touchdown. The previous leader was Kyler Murray and Michael Vick, who are tied at 4 games. I guess he's at 5. I think he's at 6, maybe. Like this, and let's keep it going. I mean,
No, and the Chicago Bears came into the game averaging 201 rushing yards a game. They got 160 today, so a little bit underneath what they needed to do to keep pace to break the Ravens record of team rushing yards in a season in 2019. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. Dave, let's just hit some of these games really quick before we bring in Ryan. I'm just going to pick one out of the hat here. Let's go with an easy one right now. The Bills moved to 7-3 over the Browns that fall to 3-7. They win 31-23, Dave. Beyond the box score, what do you think? Let's do a little stepping on Monday here. What do you think the story is coming out of this game moving forward for either team?
Well, for the Bills, I mean, I think Josh Allen hasn't really looked great coming off of that injury. It kind of seems like it is hindering him. They did get bailed out by their running game today. Devin Singletary, again, falling in the end zone twice.
Yep.
But Josh Allen just doesn't look right. And the Bills don't really look like that unstoppable, bound for the Super Bowl team they were 5-6 weeks ago. I think things are definitely shifting and moving right now, and it's very interesting to see that they kind of just squeaked away with a win against the Browns, a very beatable Browns team in that. And so I would like to see where we're at. I mean, we're seeing Josh Allen make a lot of mistakes over the last couple games, not so many in this game. But to me, the storyline is the Bills don't really look unstoppable, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And honestly, if I can be selfish for a second. I like Nick Chubb, right? I mean, I have him on my fantasy team, but you know what? I was really happy to see the Browns lose because you know what? They're 3-7, and a certain guy's coming back to play quarterback from them next week, excuse me. And I just really don't want to. I didn't want to have the entertaining thought of him leading his team to the playoffs. I prefer it didn't really happen at all. So I'm glad that they just moved to 3-7. Let's pair that up really quick, Dave. Let's talk about, before we bring in Ryan, just super fast. I want to hear from him on this one too. Let's just talk about Lions versus the Giants today, 31-18. The Lions have now won 2 in a row. They're now 4-6. The Giants now they fall to 7-3. Dave, I think the story coming out of this game is going to be the Giants, and obviously Dallas is going to win. The Commanders won today. The Eagles won today. The division's looking really tough for the NFC East. But can I just say really quick, you just talked about the Bills. This Lions-Bills game coming up on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, I'm dying to see what the line is because I have a feeling that the line is going to be somewhere between 5.5, 6.5 points in the Bills' favor. And you just mentioned it. Are the Bills running on all cylinders right now? Is Josh Allen healthy? I don't think we can say either of those things to be true right now. And the Lions are on a little bit of a heater. Dave, am I wrong? The Lions could at least cover in that game. That could become a competitive and interesting game.
I definitely think that's in the range of outcomes. However, it is still the Detroit defense and the Detroit secondary, and they get absolutely freaking torched by really good wide receivers.
Danny Dimes couldn't do it today?
And I could see Diggs and Gabe Davis and even Isaiah McKenzie all having their way. But I will say the Lions continue to impress me, okay? They're getting it done with 3 different running backs. Jamal Williams didn't even have the most yards. It was Justin Jackson, who's just newly acquired on the team, who had 66 yards. Jamal Williams seems to just be like a touchdown machine. DeAndre Swift finds the end zone. They're just like a tough, hard-nosed running team. And, looks like Jared Goff didn't turn the ball over this time. So they got the W. Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, Jared Goff didn't do anything in that game, and they still put up 31 points, which is impressive. And yeah, look, Dave, it could easily be 27-3 Bills by the time you preset your oven to 350 or 425, whatever it is, Thursday morning if you're out here on the West Coast. But all of a sudden, I don't know. I'm just seeing one team moving in another direction. The Bills not quite where they need to be, and I'm curious what that line is and see if they can possibly cover. Let's keep talking Bleav NFL Live here. Week 11 action. It's time to bring in a man that I haven't seen in quite a while, but I'm so happy that he is here. He is Ryan Dyrud, the LA Football Network, LAFB, coming at us from the West Coast. Ryan, how are you, my friend?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me. And yeah, doing well. It's Christmas season officially for me. So you see the tree in the background, the temperatures are dropping, football's in full swing. But yeah, excited to talk some ball today. So thanks for having me on.
We were texting earlier this week, Ryan. Are you going to the Grove? Is the Grove happening tonight?
The Grove is happening tonight. Yeah, be down there for the tree lighting. Daughter's pumped. I got a sweater in the dryer that I'll be pulling out. So yeah, we're in full bore.
Well, Ryan, so happy to have you here on Bleav NFL Live. Let's go to your block. Let's go to your corner really quick. The Rams lose, and the Rams don't just lose. They lose Matt Stafford again today. They lose the Saints 27-20. The Rams are now 3-7. The outsider's perspective might already know the answer to this, but what is the pulse right now of Rams fandom? The season's not going in the right direction. And where do you place this team right now? Not just next week, but, I don't know, in the years to come. Where is this franchise right now?
This is not exaggerating. They might actually be the worst team in football right now. Like, they are just a bad football team. Part of that is with the injuries. They had their 11th different offensive line grouping today, which I Bleav is the most in NFL. They lost another offensive lineman today. Obviously, they've missed Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp's done for the foreseeable future. Injuries all over. But a lot of it is just we did a live show for ourselves after the game. And as for great as Sean McVay is and how much we love Sean McVay, and I'd love to get your guys' thoughts. I don't know how many Rams games you guys watch, but it seems like he's still coaching like this is the 2021 Rams with OBJ, with a healthy Cooper Kupp, with Andrew Whitworth as his left tackle, with a healthy unit on the offensive line, with Stafford in his first season with the Rams is still the shiny new toy. And he's still coaching and play calling like that when he doesn't have Andrew Whitworth. Cooper Kupp was the only receiver he really had on this roster. I know Allen Robinson, but he just hasn't utilized him. The running game is nowhere to be found, but they're still calling games like that. So it's frustrating from that. I just don't think McVay is totally adjusted to kind of the roster he has. Now, even if he had, it's so banged up, this still wouldn't be a good football team, but I think they would be better than 3-7. I think there's some games they could have got out of and at least been around 500. But to get to your future question, we were talking about that too. And it's kind of, it's interesting because you never want to speculate on Stafford's health, but if this is the second concussion in 3 weeks, and I know his wife has been very public about the fears of concussions and how much she would basically push her husband to step away, there's definitely the thought now that maybe Stafford hangs it up after this year. Aaron Donald already questioned retirement. Maybe he hangs it up. Sean McVay said he was thinking about retiring. Maybe he steps away after this year.
Whoa.
So there's 3 kind of things to think about. And it's one, does Les Snead say, we're going to go all in one more time this offseason to keep the band together, trade that 2024 first again, and go all in for one more potential run? But that would then put this team in a very, very dark place in 2024 and beyond if they were to then have no draft picks and lose their coach, the greatest defensive player of all time, and potentially their quarterback. Or do they say, you know what? It worked. We got a championship. Now let's rebuild. Let's go get a quarterback of the future that can become the face of the franchise and kind of have this fan base that is still so new in LA grow with the team. One thing about the Chargers fan base, which is interesting, is because Justin Herbert was drafted, this fan base is kind of growing with Herbert and with the Chargers. Stafford's a Lion, right? Like, we love him here in LA. Like, it was a great trade. It got us a Super Bowl, but he's not like a face of the Rams franchise. Like, that's Aaron Donald, and it's hard to have a defensive
He's the face
lineman.
of Pizza Hut. He's the face of Pizza Hut, though, Ryan.
He took over for Peyton Manning. So, or Peyton Manning was Papa John's, excuse me.
Right.
But anyway,
Actually,
I'm getting long-winded, but that's the way it's looking for the Rams right now.
Dave, hop in, man. I mean, your wife's a Rams fan. You get to see a lot of Rams snaps.
Yeah.
You just weigh in on the general the concept of where the Rams are right now, and to Ryan's point too, as well, about McVay's play calling, during these difficulties.
No, I think that's a great observation by Ryan, because the one thing I see as an observer of the Rams this season is they're just slow. They're lacking playmakers, especially on offense. Like, you look at their run game. Cam Akers looks like he has a piano on his back. Allen Robinson is slow. He just looks like he's trotting out there. Van Jefferson looks like he's lost a step. Their biggest playmaker today was Tutu Atwell, who just is basically just Deshaun Jackson light. They're just lacking speed on offense. Tyler Higbee looks like he's sluggish. But yet you're right. McVay is running it like they were this really quick team when they had Brandon Cooks and a lot of people that could take the top off the defense. And I just don't see that in this Rams team. And they just look slow, and they just don't have any playmakers. Outside of today's play with Tutu, who really do you see helping Stafford take something to the house outside of Kupp? Who is that player for you guys?
It's no longer Robert Woods, and it's no longer Odell Beckham Jr. That's for sure, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, Van Jefferson has the ability. He was actually their best deep threat last year. Obviously, he's been injured up until just 2 weeks ago was his first game back. So he has the ability, but he's not like a star profile player. He's your kind of third wide receiver 3, right? A true wide receiver 3 that can stretch the field if need be, but can't be the focal point. So to your point, I mean, it's definitely a talent discrepancy at this point with this offense. But even just the usage rate is so odd. With the running game's been non-existent all year. Finally, today they commit a little bit to it. They run the ball 25 times. I think when you include Perkins' 5 QB rushes, they get to 30. But Cam Akers was off the team for 3 weeks, basically on an island saying, you're not with us. And then he's now the lead back again. And you have Kyron Williams back healthy. Darrell Henderson's been there. So it's just, I don't know. The whole offense is just in a very weird spot.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting point of what you're seeing now, because from an outside observer, what I always took away from McVay in those 2018, 2019 seasons was his adaptability of how they would actually deploy different game plans to try and help Jared Goff out. And of course, they did have Todd Gurley back then, so you can play a multi-dimensional offense on any given week. It's kind of a nice luxury. And maybe he's now just leaning into a style that he doesn't trust any other way, because of the running back situation, because of, as you mentioned, no more Andrew Whitworth. It's Thanksgiving coming up in a couple of days, Ryan. So people are going to be baking a lot of things. So I'm going to throw a hot take at you. What I'm hearing from you is there's 2 options, right? There's the rebuild option, which a lot of NFL teams do. And you mentioned Les Snead going into it. burning more draft capital to try and squeeze one more ring out of, this Donald, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Ramsey iteration that they have right now. So Ryan, is the answer Aaron Rodgers?
No, I don't think. It's a fun question. Good question.
I mean, I'm just thinking about this off the cuff because my question is it Matthew Stafford? Maybe we'll rephrase it like that. And if it's not Matthew Stafford, who is it? And you can't draft somebody. Your draft pick's going to the Lions next year.
Yep.
So you're going to have to go out and find somebody who would be that somebody if it's not Matt Stafford.
Well, I think it's a great question and it's a good thought. This team isn't 3-7 because of Matthew Stafford playing poorly. He hasn't played great. But I think it's been more on kind of the play calling, the players around him, and they've getting away, and they really don't have an offensive identity this year. So I don't think I don't think any QB is winning behind what this offense is right now. So to kind of answer your question, if they're going to go get someone, it needs to be in 2024 or beyond in the draft, a young quarterback. So I think Stafford's going to be the QB until they draft a new one. It doesn't make any sense trading for another vet quarterback because I just don't think where they're at, that's going to make that much of a difference. I mean, we see how vet quarterbacks have struggled all over the league this year. So that's kind of my thought.
But that's interesting though, because, you're bringing up a really strong point that if Matthew Stafford and his concussions, it turns into a life issue that goes beyond what he's capable of doing on the field. Mm-hmm. The Rams franchise is really tied to how this all shakes out with Matthew Stafford, not just with the concussions, but also with his play in the next year and a half. And if he does walk away from the game, maybe that's the easy answer. Then if he walks away, then you just rebuild and the McVay makes a decision. Aaron Donald makes a decision. And then you just try and, start trying to recoup draft capital however you can with maybe the players that you do or do not want to keep around. I want to move on to some different games here with you, Ryan. And Dave, I want you to weigh in. Let's just hit really quick, or let's just keep it broad, just really fast, because the Commanders won today 23-10 over the Texans. Not a big surprise other than the fact that they're now 6-5.
Yeah.
The Eagles able to hang on. They win 17-16 over the Colts. They're 9-1. And then you see the Dallas Cowboys just ripping up on the Vikings right now. The Giants lose, Ryan. Suddenly their grip on this NFC East, or maybe all that enthusiasm and momentum that they've been building up, it's starting to dissipate pretty quickly, right? I mean, it's getting to a danger zone for the Giants kind of quick, no?
Well, this is why I love the NFL so much. Like going into this year, NFC was seen as NFC East was seen as and you have the AFC West, which was going to be this juggernaut. And then we just watched a pitiful Broncos Raiders game in overtime for the last place in the division. But to answer your question, it's a great question. Cause I feel like as good as the Giants have been, and I feel you guys probably are more broad strokes than me, but I feel like no one really believed they were like a true contender. I mean, even with how good their record is, I don't think anyone was like, this is the team, like top 3 team in the NFC, even though their record said that. Similar to the Jets, right? I'm not trying to bog down on these New York teams, but I don't think anyone believed the Jets were this like juggernaut out of the AFC either. Kudos to what they've done in East Rutherford for both those teams, but when you look at just the way the rosters are, Washington, that defense, that front seven is nasty. I mean, that's what you build. You need a quarterback and you need a front seven. Now, I'm not saying Tyler Heineke is going to necessarily lead this Washington Commanders team to the promised land, but they have kind of identity on offense. They have a skill set where they need it, and they have a defense that can really crack down. So I think there definitely is a true race for that second spot behind the Eagles. I don't know. Yeah,
Dave, just hop in real quick. Eagles Colts today. What do you think? What is the story that we walk out of this game? The Eagles come from behind. They were losing the whole game. They win 17-16. What is that story that we're going to be talking about on Monday from that game?
I think it's that Jalen Hurts has proven to show that he can kind of be the real deal for this team and lead them to wins. He gets it done on the ground once again, rushing touchdowns. He's their leading rusher. He's their leading thrower, of course. I mean, he's just a guy that as a Bears fan, I look to him and I think a lot about Justin Fields, where it's like the knock on him is like the throwing and he can run, but then eventually you get him the right weapons. You get him AJ Brown. All of a sudden you're like, okay, this guy can lead a team to a championship. They did just squeak it out. I will say that the Philadelphia defense over the last 2 games also kind of fleeting a bit, falling off, trailing off. Not exactly that shutdown secondary that they were a couple of weeks ago. So I would say that keeps things very interesting in that division, but I still think they're the team to beat.
Well, and if you look too in the NFC, there's going to be multiple wild cards that are probably going to come out of that NFC East as we're looking at it right now. It's just going to be a matter of the Giants better be careful, in my opinion. I'm with you, Ryan, that I don't think that they're an elite team. Do I think that they win a playoff game? Probably not. But if they want the goodwill to continue and go into the playoffs, at this point, they're still pretty securely in that picture. But I just think they need to be careful a little bit. And I think today was a really bad loss for them. And you look at what the Cowboys are doing now, all of a sudden, the Eagles haven't played great, but they continue to win. And you've got the Commanders and the Cowboys playing really well. It's I don't know. It's just a really intriguing thing right now for the Giants moving forward. A couple more for you. Then I want you to preview Chargers Chiefs first before we get you out of here. Man, do I have to force you to talk about Ravens, Panthers, and Patriots and Jets today? Holy cow. Yeah. I mean, give you a room to pick. Which game would you, what are we pulling out of either of these games today? Seriously.
I mean, if we're pulling anything out, probably the better teams won in each. Not by much, but the better teams each won probably.
That's perfect phrasing too. The better teams. You didn't mention them as good. You didn't say that they were necessarily good football teams.
Well, okay, here's a question for you. Like, what's your pulse on the Ravens? Because some week it's like, all right, this is a dominant like playoff team, and some weeks it's like, are they? I mean, it really depends on Lamar Jackson, right?
Man, I mean, what do you think with the Ravens? Do you have any stock? Are you buying into the Ravens at all?
No, I mean they couldn't get an offensive touchdown till the very end there. Their leading receiver is DeMarcus Robinson. I mean, there's another team where you just look at their wide receiving core and you're just like, who? Prochet, Duvernay.
It's so bad every year, and it continuously the injuries then continuously make the names far more obscure. And my whole thing. Go for it.
I was just say that the one thing with the Ravens that's interesting is, as great as the great Ozzie Newsome was, and now the new management staff, and they always are talked about as like being this elite drafting team. The wide receiver position is the one they just like neglect always. And I don't understand why. I mean, even they get a Hollywood Brown who's not a superstar, but at least like can be a decent wide receiver one, and they trade him away. So that's the one position where it's like they're almost not trying to help Lamar Jackson out in any way. It's very odd.
Yeah, and to play for a team that clearly doesn't value wide receiver or running back, it's usually one or the other, right? But they don't value either of them on that team. Look, they've got the wins right now. They're definitely in the playoff picture, but they're sitting right there alongside the Jets. So who knows what's going to happen? What's going to happen moving forward? But man, you just look at it. What is their style of play? I can't figure it out other than, like you said, it's Lamar or bust. And you look at some of these teams in the AFC right now, and you look at the Dolphins, you look at the Bills, you look at the Chiefs. And then I still think this Bengals team is probably going to be around if they get Jamar Chase healthy back. Those are offenses that Ryan, the Ravens can't keep up with those teams, right? And that's the problem. And that's what I make them fool's gold,
Well, and that's Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator. That's why it seems like every 3 or 4 years he comes up in like head coaching talks, and then it fizzles out because his offenses in general they go on like stretches where it's like an exciting dynamic offense, and then defenses figure it out. It completely comes to a halt. And then he kind of, like, to his credit, will kind of change things up a little bit. It gets a little dynamic again, and then it completely comes to a halt. So there's just no consistency with what they do. And a lot of that is because they can't air it out. They can't push it downfield. So you kind of know what's coming. And if you're going to run the ball 30 plus times, which I think is a recipe to win, but you have to also be able to stretch the field if that's what you're going to do, or you need a running back like Derrick Henry, which they obviously just don't have.
Here's a legitimate hot take question. Would the Ravens be a winning team if they didn't have Justin Tucker? Like, how many times are we watching that guy bail them out? Is he their best player? And
he has been for years.
If the Ravens had Eddie Pinheiro or somebody, like, would they be winning games?
That's not a hot take at all. That's a great question. I need to go back and look. They may not. They may be a sub 500 team in the John Harbaugh era without Justin Tucker.
I mean, I just keep watching this guy bail them out time after time from 50 plus yards. And I'm going, I think this is their offense. Their offense is, let's just get it to the 40 and then just run it twice and kick it.
That's so funny too, because they give him like 24 million guaranteed. And now they're talking about Lamar's, like, you know what I mean? His all-time contract extension that'll pay him twice that amount, or pay him $24 million in 6 games in 2 months. Yeah. And I mean, no, I don't think that's a hot take at all. I mean, where would they be without that leg? They certainly needed it today. It was 3-3 in the third quarter. Patriots Jets was 3-3 into overtime, or no, excuse me, into the very last seconds of the fourth quarter on that punt return. My goodness. Ryan, we're going to wrap up here in just a second, man, but this is also your block, also your account. Chargers take on the Chiefs tonight. Give us a preview a little bit. And, you know, I think a lot of the gambling public probably is leaning towards Chiefs tonight, but give us maybe some reasons. Do the Chargers have a shot? And if they do, how are they going to pull it off tonight?
Yeah, right here in LA, SoFi in about 45 minutes from now.
Pull out the
kickoff.
trumpet.
So
that trumpet.
That's right. So always a great game. You know, the Chargers, for all their faults, they're always fun on primetime. It's always a ball game. They're in it if you look at all primetime's game, it's usually a 1-possession game at the end, especially these Chargers Chiefs games. So it should be a fun one. But, you know, I picked against the Chargers last week when they played the Niners. And this week I actually picked the Chargers in this one just because they're getting finally some reinforcements. We talk about the Rams and their injuries. The Chargers are actually the most injured team in all of football when you look at their offensive weapons. And, you know, not many quarterbacks, I don't care who you are, winning without wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 3 on your roster. So, and that's what Justin Herbert's had to do the last 2 or 3 weeks. And now he's getting back. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are both set to go in this game. And when you look at the Chiefs, for how great the Chiefs are and how great Patrick Mahomes is, no matter what, obviously still have Travis Kelce, but he will actually be missing wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 with Juju Smith-Schuster out and McCole Hardman going on IR. So they still have a lot of talent on that roster. Obviously, they just got Kadarius Toney, who I'm sure you guys maybe talked about earlier, who now is going to slide into a very good role after being, you know, wanting out of New York. But when you miss those 2 guys and the Chargers are getting their 2 guys back, that's kind of why I lean a little bit for the Chargers in this one.
I love it. Dave, what's your final score for the game tonight? Chiefs, Chargers. Who do you got?
I mean, he brings up a good point. I
had a score in my mind, and now I don't know if I should say
I didn't see the update, but Keenan Allen is for sure playing. That's confirmed?
As of this moment. Knowing the Chargers, we'll know for sure at 5:10, but
I mean, I could see it being a really close game. It's probably going to come down to a field goal. Maybe 24-27. I'm going to go Chiefs still, but I think it's going to be a competitive game and a fun one.
Yeah. Ryan, what's your final score?
So it's going to be close as always. Probably come down to like the last possession or whatever. You know, the Chargers offense has struggled putting points up in the second half. Last week, completely shut out. I think they'll be able to put up at least a touchdown in the second half of this one. So I go 27. What score did you say? Did you say 27-24?
27-24. You're going Chargers, though. I went Chiefs.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, 27-24 Chargers.
Go. Butker versus Dicker. Who's going to do it?
Yes. That's the true battle. That's the true battle.
Tale as old as time. Playing out tonight under the bright lights of Sunday Night Football. Ryan Dyrud, thank you so much, man. It's been a while, dude, but so happy to see you. So happy to see you're doing well. Congrats to all of your success, man. Throw out your socials, different ways that people that are watching this right now can check out all of your great content for the Bleav Sports Network. And go enjoy the Grove, will you? Go out there.
Yes. No, thank you. Great seeing you again. We got to hang out soon. So appreciate you hitting me up. And at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB, main channels, LAFB Network, LAFBnetwork.com is where you find all of our LA football stuff. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
You're the man, Ryan. See you, dude.
Later.
Dave, that's going to pretty much do it for Bleav NFL Live Week 11. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I'll see you back in Week 21. I'll see you back for Week 21. Okay, pal? I will be here on the ones, everyone.
Well, we got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, buddy. You just signed a deal right there, my friend, with math. Please, Justin Fields, please be healthy. Please be okay. You don't have to play next week, but come on, let's see him again.
In fact, don't play. Just rest. Think about next year, okay?
Trevor Siemian for turkey leftovers. Fantastic. Thank you so much for checking us out this week. We will be back next week. We actually got a really fun holiday themed show next week with some great guests. Make sure you come back. We're here every single Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. This is the Bleav NFL live stream, Week 11 reaction show. You can check out the the Bleav Sports Network for all of its amazing content, but most specifically, we have 32 former NFL players paired to every single NFL team, paired also with a great co-host on our wildly talented Bleav roster that you should check out every single week. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy. Follow him at it's Dave Rispoli. Follow him at Rotoballer NFL on TikTok too as well. Follow all of us at Bleav Sports. Thank you so much for checking us out, you guys. We'll see you back next week. Be well, be safe. Please be good to each other.